All right, we're going to get going. So for starters, I want to thank the Sentinel, Keene Sentinel and Keene State College for putting this on. I think it's really important. I mean, this is an interesting time when unemployment is really high. It hadn't been high for a while. And then on the other side, there's a lot of employers saying they can't find people. So hopefully this is a good way for us to make those matches and help you guys get, what you're looking for. So this session topic is landing the interview. So we are really, working on, towards how can you work to get the interview that you're looking for that'll lead to the right job. Hopefully that's what everybody is looking for here. And we'll stop because there's other really good sessions coming on after it. And just for introductions, I'm Mark Bodin. I'm the president of Savings Bank of Walpole. I have been in this position for 2.5 years, but at the bank for 10 years. And I came to the bank as part of a succession plan as a result of a job search. So, I went through a job search, had to go through all of this. So I can relate, and before that, I have kind of a different background. I worked in the nonprofit world, leading a national nonprofit for 16 years, which was part of a job search where I moved to a new area. So, I think it could relate to whatever you guys are going through, and, hopefully this will be useful for you. And we also have Tamara Richardson, who will introduce herself.
Hi, thank you, Mark. My name is Tamara Richardson, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for New Hampshire Mutual Bancorp. I've been in human resources for more than 30 years, most of it with Savings Bank of Walpole, which affiliated with some other banks under New Hampshire Mutual Bancorp. So I was in charge of human resources here at Savings Bank of Walpole for 24 years or 23 years before taking on my new role. So I haven't been out looking for a job in a while, but I can tell you that I have seen thousands of resumes in my career as part of my job here. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly as well. So hopefully today we can give you some pointers and good tips on presenting your resume to those prospective employers and landing that job. My job is making sure that every person hired is a good fit and hopefully will be successful in their role at the new place that they are working at. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mark, who's going to start us off here.
Yeah, so just the obvious for all of us is there are challenges with having to do this virtually. I think, again, the Sentinel and Keene State did a great job to pull this together because we've all learned it's gone on for so long that it's better to do it than wait till we can do it live. So, there are limitations. I wish this could be really interactive. So one way we can do that is at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A thing there. And what we'll do is as we get through each section, we'll stop, and we'll see if there's any questions. And because we really want to do this for you. So again, the limitations of the medium is something we're going to have to deal with. So we'll all make it work. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll see what we could talk about. So landing the interview, getting the job you want. I think, just as a title, getting the job you want is an important part to getting a job. I think getting a job is different from getting the job you want, and you're going to spend a lot of time at work. So I think that really getting the right job is really an important thing and a big part of your life. So the first thing, I guess we'll talk about the three phases. What are you looking for, is ready. What do you want? And that'll help guide your search. Set is creating a great resume. The reality is that piece of paper or that electronic document is going to represent you. So, how does it appropriately represent you for the job that you're looking for? And go is your action plan. How do you get that interview you want when you get through all the preparation? So we're going to touch on those three areas. So first, in terms of what are you looking for, I think it's really important to understand and ask yourself, what kind of job do you want? What's important to you? What do you need? There may be opportunities for a job that you think is perfect for you, but you'd have to pick up your family and move, and you don't want to do that. So that's not a good job for you. So I think that, figuring out what is it that you want to do, but also finding the balance between, are you looking for something very specific? And that may be the case. Looking for something very specific will be a little harder. Are you just looking for something really broad, or do you not know what you want to do? And I think your ability to answer some of those questions and work through it are really going to help you. So like anything else, preparation leads to better performance, and your job search is a really important thing that you're going to have to undertake and do it. And you've probably already been into it. So the first thing is role. What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? I think that I always tell people career, exploration is as much about understanding what you don't want as what you do want. If you find you like to work outdoors, don't get a desk job. You're not going to be happy. If you don't like talking to people, you're not social, don't get a sales job or a job in a, you're going to have to answer phones in a call center. I think also, depending on where you are in your career, what are you good at? Or what do you want to get good at? I think that, that's a big factor. And if you can work in something that you're good at and interests you, you're going to get a whole lot more job satisfaction. And if you really don't know, get ideas from people who know you. They may say that, you love getting out there and taking pictures and you're a really good photographer. Have you thought about actually doing that for a profession? And I think that friends really play a big role, and people who know you play a big role in terms of guiding you into what you do like and what you don't. So use those people and think about that. Pay, why else are you going to work? We're working for pay. Hopefully you're not thinking about it through the day, but I think you need to figure out what's your ideal pay, which would be, as much as possible, but you need to be realistic about it. And you need to figure out what's the minimum, that's going to work for you. Getting a job that isn't going to pay your bills isn't going to do you much good. So I think you really need to have an honest assessment of, for the right opportunity, I'd be willing to work for X dollars, but I'm really looking for a job that pays this. And I think you can balance that out. But you need to be honest with yourself. Benefits. Do you have a family that you need healthcare? And that's a really important thing that costs a lot of money. If you need a job with benefits, don't look for jobs that don't have benefits. Look for certain other things. If benefits aren't as important to you, that opens up a lot more positions that could be, realistic for you. Location and work environment. Are you willing to relocate? Do you have a kid who's in daycare, so you don't want to be more than half hour away, so you can respond to things? What kind of work environment do you like? Do you like working outdoors? Do you want to work in an office environment, or does working in an office environment completely, the thought of that disgust you? So I think you need to be honest with yourself, in figuring out, again, what are those different balances, and realizing not every job, a perfect job, isn't necessarily going to have all of those things. Hours, schedule, time off, flexibility. If you don't want to work weekends, you shouldn't be thinking about hospitality industry or leisure industry kind of jobs, because when you start there, odds are you're going to work weekends, you're going to work nights. So those are things I think you need to figure out. How much time off do you need? Do you need flexibility because you have somebody elderly you need to care for? Or do you need flexibility to care for your child? Or I need to drop my kid off at school and pick him up, so here are the hours I have to work. These are all things that I think you need to really think about a lot, and not just look at job listings in the Sentinel or other places. You need to really know what you're looking for. Another one is opportunity for advancement. I think, are you looking to go somewhere where you really want to move up in a company, and are you willing to start at a little lower level and maybe sacrifice things if you can see that path is there? I can say when I started at the bank, I came in a position that was lower responsibility than other things I had done before, but it was part of a succession plan. So I knew in 2 years I had an opportunity to move up in the organization. And so I was willing to pay my dues and learn about banking for a couple of years, as we went through that. So these are the kind of things that maybe that's obvious, but I think you need to really understand what you're searching for, or else it becomes really general. I think also you need to do your homework. It might be good to say, oh, I really want to work in, I have a chemistry degree and, I really want to do this. Where are those jobs? In Keene, you might find that maybe those jobs exist, maybe they don't. And where are they? And again, you go back to the earlier questions, are you willing to move? Or is the thing you're really interested in just not something that as a career is going to fly? So I think you need to think about where those jobs are. And you may look into where those jobs exist and be completely psyched and say, wow, there's a lot of those, locally that really fit my needs. So I think that those are the kind of things that you keep, just a series of questions. I think a hard gut check is, am I qualified? And the world may tell you that, as you're going, they may say, yeah, you're very qualified. Your experience is really work well, or they may say, at this point, you're lacking these kind of skills that we're looking for. So as you go through and you do your self-evaluation, hopefully you're checking the boxes and saying, I'm qualified for that. I've looked at the qualifications for the job that are posted, and I think I can do that. The other one is, if you're not, I think the question is, how do you become qualified? Maybe you're a class away. Maybe what you need to do is say, all right, I'm just going to get a different kind of job for 6 months while I take this class at night, that I think will increase my qualifications, or the community college has the things I'm looking for, or maybe 2 years from now, I'm ready for it. So again, questions, availability, like, are those jobs around, and, are they available? Who's doing that job, to me, is an important one, because if you can figure out who's doing that job, you can reach out to them and talk to them about it and ask them about what their day's like. What's the job like? You may say, wow, I don't want to do that job at all. I thought that would be interesting. Or you may get completely psyched about it. And being really motivated to get something, I think is really going to help your search along. So if you can find people who are doing that job, or you can network into them, I really encourage you to get in touch with them. And, in the old world, you used to say, let's go out for coffee one morning. Now you might just say, hey, it's only going to take 5 minutes, because you don't even have to leave your desk. I'd love to talk to you and learn about this job. And, and if you don't know anyone in it, networking is something we'll bring up later. And I know there's a session after lunch on networking. I really encourage everybody to get as much networking, experience and knowledge as you can, because it is most likely your network, or a network, is going to get you a job. So again, the great thing is, if you know somebody who's in a job, go talk to them. And a lot of times then they get excited about you, and they're going to go and refer you to somebody. So again, the whole purpose, it's like anything in preparation, is giving your job search focus. Doing a real scattershot search is going to be hard, and the odds of finding what you're really looking for are going to be limited. But if you can focus it and know who to go out there and talk to, I think it's going to give you a big advantage over others that might be looking for the same job. So before we go on to the next step, which is talking about resumes, is there any questions, that people have, or you want to, before we move on, about this specific area? We have a moderator who's going to let us know.
One just popped in, and it's, if you interview 3 times for one job, they say that you have everything that they are looking for, resume is great, why would they still not choose you?
Yeah, Tamara, do you want to start on that one?
Sure. It could be that, your resume is great. And you may have everything that they're looking for, but there may be that candidate that is just that one level above you, or a couple candidates. So while your resume is good and you do have the qualifications, again, there could be someone that maybe has done the job already, or done it a little bit longer. Maybe they had references that came in a little bit better than your particular ones. That is what I would think could possibly be happening.
I would start by saying, I feel your pain. I mean, that's tough, when it's like, well, if I have everything you're looking for, why haven't I been working there for 6 months already? You may have already done this. I would ask them. I would follow up and say, all right, I really want this job. I really want to work here. I like that there's opportunities. You said that I'm qualified. What is it going to take, for me to get in that job? And a lot of times, I mean, and hopefully they'll be honest with you, about like, oh, this is something that, you didn't have and somebody else had. That would give you the opportunity to kind of go out there and try to acquire, that skill. So I would talk to the person who interviewed, and just, as a follow-up, because I think that also, I mean, I really like persistence in people that are motivated, and I want to hire people that want to be, at Savings Bank of Walpole. So I think that I would recommend, and again, you've probably done it, or you may have done it, or you may think it was inappropriate. I would reach back out, and say, I really want to work there. How, you said I'm qualified. Like, what else do I need? What if other people have that I haven't? And find a way that's comfortable for you to say that. But I definitely think that's fair to do.
Mark, here's a follow-up question to tag off of that. It's, can I ask an employer what I can do better in my next interview?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's all part of building your network. I think that just getting information, I think that information is friendly. You can act on information. Lack of information just isn't there. So I think that, in the interview, we're really not going to touch on interview here, but Tamara and I would always tell people, follow up, with a nice note after, a nice email these days. And it establishes that relationship. So if you have that, all right, thanks for the opportunity, kind of thing, I think going back to them and asking, those questions, or like, what advice do they have for you, for moving forward? Or do they know anyone else in other, who have similar kind of positions open that they would recommend you contact? And I think that's how you build your network. You build your network one by one. And I think that showing that you're sincere, you really want, the job, and you're looking to, do what you can do and improve where you can. I mean, I think those are all admirable qualities that I'd much rather have people that are persistent and are really working at things than someone who kind of just comes to.
Mhm.
Hopefully that's helpful.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, let's jump. This is going to be creating a great resume with Tamara.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So the role of a resume is to represent you to potential employers and make them want to interview you. So you need to remember that this is going to be your first introduction to the employer about yourself. So make it a good impression. It's just like the saying that says first impressions are lasting impressions. You need to do that and make sure that your resume is going to reflect you and give that good first impression to them. Again, the resume should fit the type of jobs you're looking for. Mark touched on that a little bit. If you're applying for a management position, in your resume, use words that highlight your management style, something that will point the interviewer out that you have these skills. If you're looking for a creative role, make your resume come across as having a little more flair. You need to pick and choose which resumes should be used for which roles that you're looking for. A great resume will get you the interview, and I like the statement, it will get you the interview, but not the job. That's so important to realize. Truth is, a good resume doesn't typically get passed over. So take the time to do it right, and it'll make all the difference. You need to get your foot in the door. You need to get that interview, so then you can go into more details and show them and speak about what you have for skills. And there's also a lot of good resume resources online for those of you that need help. You've maybe never done one before. This is your first time looking for a job, or your resume is old or outdated. Take the time to go online and look. There's a lot of good resources. Indeed is one that comes to mind for me right off the top of my head. Local college career centers, they have great resources there. Check with them. They can give you examples. They can help you prepare them. State employment agencies, go to their centers. They can help you. Of course, you can always go to YouTube. YouTube can show you everything, so they can certainly show you how to make a resume. And or just go out and Google, resume, and you'll find all the information that you need for preparing and getting ready for making that great resume. Okay, we can move on, Mark.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Sleep.
Don't do that in the interview, though. So no need to be fancy. When you're creating your resume, you want to be concise and clear. And I would recommend not using specific jargon or acronyms unless you're applying for a job that you know they're going to be looking for those items in it. Just be as clear and concise as you can be, and use that to your advantage. And be truthful. I mean, not a whole lot you can say about that. Lies and exaggerations will come out. And to be honest with you, it could get you fired down the road if they were to learn that you had lied on your resume or your application. after the fact. So make sure you're telling the truth and be truthful on those. You want them to hire the real you. You want to start your career out on the right foot. You want them to know this is you, this is what you're about. So show them who you are and put that down in your resume as well. The resume must be well written, no spelling or grammatical errors. And I see it a lot still. Remember that you're not typing a text message when you're explaining something on a resume. Capitalize those I's, because you're probably going to be in a position in a new job where you're going to have to send an email to a coworker or to a vendor or to your boss. Make sure that you are spelling words correctly and there are no errors. Because what will happen is that will get you noticed, but in the wrong way. They'll take a look at your resume and they'll start to see things that are incorrectly spelled. And they're going to immediately say, well, I'm going to pass on this one and look for someone else that knows how to spell words correctly or capitalize the letter, capitalize I or whatever. And another thing to help you with it is have it reviewed by someone. If you've got a parent or you've got a best friend, if you've got a mentor, go to them and ask them to review it and give any insight into it and have them correct those things. Because I know when I review things quite often, I'll reread the word time and time again and not catch it. It's when someone else looks at it that they finally catch it. So use that to your advantage. The layout needs to be clear and easy to read. And the one that I particularly like to see the most is the reverse chronological order resume. So that, of course, that's the one where you want to put your current job first and then go backwards from there. I want to know what you're currently doing or what your most current job was to compare it to be able to determine whether that is a skill or a qualification for the job that you're applying for. And you can look that up online, reverse chronological order, and get all your samples, and it will help you do that online as well. Keywords. Larger companies often use automated search tools. They have applicant tracking systems. They have job boards that they use, and they can search on certain words. So if you are, for example, looking to be a programmer, you're going to go into IT or something, make sure you put in keywords that may be pulled out. So if you know, and this is off the top of my head, everyone, if you know SQL or something for a programming or IT job, put that in there so that they may be searching on that, and it will bring your resume forward for them to look at. Check your resume against job listings. You may find that there are jobs posted out there that match your resume already. So go out to those Indeeds and jobs in NH, jobs in BT, those types of career boards, and look and see if your job is listed that you're looking for. And one more thing I just wanted to touch on quickly here with your resume is do not give too much personal information out on it. You don't need to list personal stuff. You don't need to tell them how old you are. You don't need to list all the children. The people that are interviewing you shouldn't be asking those questions. There are certain questions that are just not allowed by law, but you also shouldn't be putting on the resume as well. So you don't ever want to put your age, your marital status, you went to school in what year, those types of things. So keep it clear of that and keep personal information to a minimum. Okay, so a popular question that I hear a lot is how long? How long should my resume be? And it does depend on your experience and your level of the position. So if you're newer to the market, 1 page is okay. You don't have a lot of history to put down, so don't just fill it with fluff, fancy words and whatever. Put down where you have worked, but sell your strengths, really highlight those. If you have lots of experience or you're at that higher level, 3 pages, I would say would be the max, and that's okay to go with. You have a lot of experience and you want to show it. You want to see that you're progressing with responsibilities in those jobs. So make sure you put that down. And if you're kind of in between in your career, usually 2 pages is good. 2 pages should tell your story, should get it across for those employers. And so I would keep it to the 2 pages limit at that point. An important thing, I think, all resumes really should come with a cover letter when possible. And these need to be well written, and ask for help from someone who maybe reviewed your resume to do a letter that is going to explain why you want this job, why you're applying for this job, and reach out to someone to have them review it with you. It's got to be well written. Tailor it to the specific position or company that you're looking at, but don't forget to change it out. So if I work at Savings Bank of Walpole and I get a cover letter and it says, "Dear hiring manager at TD," that's a big red flag for me. That person doesn't have attention to detail, perhaps. It could just be a mistake, but it's a mistake you really don't want to start off with putting your resume out to different organizations. So make sure that while you want to tailor it, you want to clear those fields out and update it to make it correct. Use your cover letter to explain any obvious questions. You know, why are there gaps in your employment? Did you decide to take some time off to raise a family, perhaps? Did you move with your husband's career, and so you had to stop working and you just hadn't gotten a job yet? There could be many, many reasons. So use that cover letter to explain some of those gaps. Do you have lots of jobs? You just haven't found the right job, or you had lots of jobs because you were in college and they were part-time and you were working around your schedule. So you had to get done with one job to get another one that worked better with your schedule. Explain that in the cover letter. And you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but just put it out there. Or explain why you have different experience for the position that you're applying for. And somehow try to bring it back and connect it to that position. But explain why you're getting out of this one career field and looking to get into another. And that will be very helpful and a benefit for you.
I think the cover letter, I would say, could be make or break for you, because it shows how well you write, you know, and I think that it tells me if you want the job. I mean, and sometimes you get them in a cover letter so generic that it's like you're mailing out resumes to a lot of companies. I mean, that's what it tells me. And I think that if you take the time and I think if you think of a way where you can stand out, this is where you really can stand out, because, you know, it goes beyond the resume. Then it gives you an opportunity to talk as you know, where a resume is like formatted, it's not in sentences. It really gives you, you know, the opportunity to show that I want this job, you know, and I may have qualifications. And I'd say for gaps in employment, a lot of people have that. I don't think that's ever an issue, you know, as long as you could explain it. You know, it's like, I needed to take time off. You know, I did this. It's okay. I don't think anyone ever holds that against you, but the opportunity to explain it is really good.
Exactly.
So any questions on resumes before we jump to action plan, which is the fun part?
We have a few questions about resumes, actually. So one of the first ones is, what are your thoughts on including a headshot on your resume?
I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah. I can speak to that real quickly. I wouldn't as well. You want someone to look at your resume strictly on your skills and your qualifications. By including a photo on there, it just opens it up to a lot of different things. So I would not include a picture in your resume, unless you're looking for a modeling job or something like that. But, you know, a typical job, no, I would not recommend that.
Great. Here's another question about resumes. There are so many different formats of resumes out there these days. How important is that presentation?
I think as long as it's clear, you know, I think if it's clear and when you read it and go through it or have somebody go through it for you, and if you go through it and feel that this represents me well, then go with it. You know, I think, you know, choosing a format that really works for you. Again, clear and concise. You know, it shows that you can tell a story. I mean, think of it. You're telling a story about yourself in 2 pages. I mean, that's pretty hard to do. So I think that for me, it's as long as it's clear and the content tells me about you, I can make a fair judgment, you know, bringing you in.
Great. And we have one other question here. It is, you mentioned having a mentor read my resume. What can I do to find a mentor? I really want to skill up, but I don't know where to look for a mentor.
Good question.
I think vocally, Hannah Grimes is a great resource. I would talk to the people at Hannah Grimes. They have like really, I know it's limited now, but I would reach out to people at Hannah Grimes. I would reach out to people at Keene State College.
Yep.
I think there's good resources, or even like, just find someone to send it to,
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, in terms of getting the guidance on there, I think that's there. I do think there's, I always figure people know people, and it's hard, like in this forum, not being able to ask, like, so who do you know? What do you do? And do that. So I think just reaching out, is the right kind of thing to get started. I mean, I would say that people reach out to me all the time, on different things. So I think finding people that you're comfortable with and asking, if they'd help, or, Tamara probably has resources either from her own or from the human resource world.
Right.
People like to help. People like to help people. It is one of these, as cynical as we all can get, at any point in time, I do think people like to help people.
Yeah, and if you're just getting out of high school, maybe that favorite teacher that you had, if you're just getting into the job search, go to a teacher or a guidance counselor, someone like that. If you're in college and you're getting ready to go out job searching, like Mark said, someone at your college, a teacher, professor, they can become a mentor. So they're out there and can be found. And I think that networking would be a good thing, and would help you find one as well. So.
Yeah, and you'll see it at the end. You'll have our contacts. I mean, seriously, if anyone can't find somebody to do it, I'd be happy to help you.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that to the first person who's interviewed 3 times also. For that thing, if you reach out to me by email, we'll find a way to connect by phone or on a Zoom, and I'll see if I can help you.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to help anyone as well with resumes or guiding them or pointing them in the right direction or whatnot. So please reach out to us.
So it makes this community great, right? People are willing to help people. So we're willing to help. So action plan. So this is where it gets real, right? So you could be the best candidate, have the greatest resume ever written that, just will make people cry when they see it. It's so amazing. If it doesn't get out there to the right people, it doesn't matter. You need a plan, that's going to get, your resume and then you to the right people for it. So you need a plan of action. And at the bottom, I hope this doesn't come across as, kind of like Odo Crass, but don't just send resumes to jobs you see on Indeed or on the Sentinel source or something and wait for responses. That's just a terrible plan. And it isn't going to work. It might work. I shouldn't say it isn't going to work, but it will lead to more frustration. And there's so many resumes being sent out these days because of electronic sources that most companies don't even get back to you and say, we received your resume, but the position is full. You don't meet our requirements. And you could have a point. I mean, and you guys have probably been there. We had 20 resumes out there and you're not hearing from anybody. And it just is really frustrating. So I think that having a plan that starts to work through and again, like if you don't have a mentor or network, I mean, you work at it. People like to help people, and I would go to the networking session after for that, or again, we can help you. So this was a big one for me, when I was looking for a position between the nonprofit and I was looking for something different, is I found that this really worked. Treat your job search as your job. If you're already working, it's hard. You kind of looking for a new job, you got to squeeze it in. But I set a schedule. I knew like my kids were in school. And so I took my kids to school every day in the morning, which was awesome. I picked them up every day, in the afternoon. And, I said other things that I wanted to do. But for the most part, that time in between, I dedicated, to really looking for a job. And, and I had a family, to feed. So, it was a serious thing. I dressed every day. I could put on a suit, but, just don't do it in your PJs because it kind of gives you the feel that you're doing something. Complain about your boss, which is you. So you can, that'll get you ready for work. And just plan your activities. Like, what are the kind of things? Again, online, there are so many resources to guide you that are good. Some of them might not fit you. Some of them may, but action leads to results. So if you're finding that you're not doing anything, like whether it's there's so many free online resources where you can gain some skills, and do things, or you're not out there talking to people or building networks, or, or reading and trying to learn about companies. And I remember I would spend days, like before I interviewed, with a bank, I spent like a day just reading about banking online and looking at resources and talking to people I knew and having them guide me to resources. And I was able to be intelligent about it, but you can do that before you apply also. Acquire strength and skills if you have downtime. Again, look what's going on at Hannah Grimes. I remember when I was looking, they had a marketing program that was like $5, or something. And now it's probably even, there's so much of it because of online, you're not limited geographically. Look for things like if you're saying, I don't know how to interview right or sell myself, look for programs on interviewing. I mean, I went to a marketing one to figure out how to market myself, better on that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to go on, track your progress, and then don't give up. I mean, it is so easy. There's nothing more frustrating than job search. I mean, it really is hard because you have so much to bring, to a place, and how come they don't see it? Or how come there's a job listed I'm like so qualified for that. How come they never called me back? And it's just, this can be really frustrating, but giving up isn't going to get you the interview. It's not going to get you a job. Establish your network. I mean, this is really a big one. And some of you may feel that you don't have a network, but everyone has a network. I mean, I was going to say, unless you live in a bubble, but so many of us basically live in a bubble, these days, that it does make it harder. But I think don't be shy. I know when I was looking, I mean, I always was somebody who helped a lot of people find jobs, but I felt funny about asking people to help me. And what I found is people were so excited to finally be able to help me. Everybody, you want to help people you like. And the day I applied for the job at Savings Bank of Walpole, I activated a group of people in Keene. And I know the president was contacted by 5 or 6 people the first day, saying, you got to interview this guy. He has no banking background. I hadn't even walked in a bank branch, in years. I knew how to use an ATM, but, I became an out of the box candidate because people told, the people here that this is a guy worth looking at. So, it happens. I would say be as diverse as you can in your network. If you're young, go to your parents' friends, go to teachers, go to people who are older, go to people that are in different jobs, have different experiences, and just, it's more likely that somebody will relate or know the person who you're trying to get to. I'm sure in the networking when they're going to talk about LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn has a lot of value there in terms of finding out who's working at a certain company. And I'd say that if you know people that use LinkedIn, find the people that have the most contacts and connect with them, because then you can start to find out who they know or their contacts know at a certain company. And that's the way that you can start networking in. So activate your network. I talked about that. It's just, don't keep your network on the shelf. I mean, have people go to them, follow up, say, hey, I talked to you about, a couple of weeks ago that I'm looking for a job. Do you know anything out there? Follow up with them. Don't just do it once. Say, hey, have you heard about anything? And it'll remind them to look for you, and people will do it. And I really do believe your network will be your greatest asset in the search, because think of what you can do and what you can hear on the ground. Compare it to if you have 15 people or 5 people, looking out for you and saying, hey, I heard there's a really good job at the Sentinel, and I was on this thing, and, this woman, Gina, helped arrange it. So, hey, let's try to get in touch with her. And it's not people, again, people like to help people. So, and I know Gina, anyone can contact Gina, and she'll take care of them. So in terms of tools, there's a lot online. So the first is a caution. Like if you use Indeed is great, but a million people are looking at Indeed. And I think, again, if your strategy is I'm going to look at jobs in Indeed and apply to them and just send out a resume without knowing anybody there or anything, there's a lot of competition. And it might work for you, but there's a lot of people doing that. So how do you differentiate yourself? So if you're sending, something to Savings Bank of Walpole, it's like, well, I was on this thing and this guy, Mark and Tamara were there, I'd send us an email. And say, oh yeah, I couldn't see you on this because I can't see anyone who's participating, but you listen to us. So that counts. To me, that's enough, to start counting people to contact. Company websites, companies list jobs. I mean, so if there's 5 companies you identify that you may want to be interested in, a lot of them never list positions on Indeed or anything. They just list them on their website. And, so I think that if there's a company that you're particularly interested in, or 3 or 4 of them, hopefully, check their website. It takes 5 minutes, to do a sweep of 4 websites, do it every 2 or 3 days, and just go through it and see if there's any listings, or, read the paper, read the Sentinel source and see if there's a company talking about expanding. Love to write about companies that are expanding, get in touch with them. Industry websites. I remember looking at education. If you have an interest there, there's an education listing, usually statewide. All positions get listed, that are open in education, or there's probably like that for other industries. And the big one to me is informational interviews. So, use your network, but if there's a company that you're interested in and they don't have anything open, reach out to their HR or somebody there and ask if they'd be willing to spend 15 minutes with you, just, telling you about the company, letting you tell about yourself, and they start to build. And if something opens, you could just say, can you let me know if something opens? And you'll have an inside track on a position that may never get posted. So even, if you're having trouble, if you're interviewing for a lot of jobs and you're finding I can make it to the finalist, but I never make it to the end, just find people and do an informational interview. And I've done this a lot with people and gone over like, all right, how do you answer that? And I was like, yeah, do you see why answering it in the negative wasn't as good as answering it in the positive? And, for them, and there's little things people can give you, little nuggets, in there. So I say, don't be shy about having people interview you if you're not interviewing for a specific job at the time. I think that's really a big one. And especially people in your network. It'll help your network know you better. And I think that all of those things will add up. So I think we have a couple minutes for questions. I'd rather do that than go to the last slide, if anyone has questions.
Sure. We have a couple questions.
Great.
One is, we touched so heavily on networking and how important that is in the job seeking process. Do you have any tips for seeking jobs out of state where you may not have a network?
Yeah, that's hard. Especially now when you can't go to a chamber event, or I think Chamber of Commerce is always a good place to start to understand the lay of the land where you're going. Nowadays, truthfully, online, you could research companies and start to do that. So I would do some research on companies that you might be interested in. And I would reach out to their HR saying, I'm interested in relocating to the area. Your company has interest to me. I have experience, in it. Is it okay? Would you be okay if I set up a day where I'm willing to come down, that area where I can do 3 or 4 interviews? I've been part of that, where people are relocating to an area. Because usually that means you're in a job and you're looking to move somewhere else, and there may be parallel jobs there. So in banking, we get resumes all the time from people saying, we're looking to move to the area. Can you help us with a search or point us in some direction? But Chamber of Commerces are always good in terms of events. And, I think, these days it's hard because it's hard getting together. But doing virtual, I think for people doing virtual, informational interviews, it should be easier.
Yep.
Okay. Here's another question. What type of questions should I be asking the interviewer to gain information and show I've done my research on their company?
Yeah, do you want to take that one, Tamara?
Yeah, I would say that at a point in the interview, you would want to just make it known that you're applying there, and that they have XYZ amount of sales. You went on their website, you looked. Or in our case, we're a mutual savings bank. I always love interviewing people and have them go, well, I know that you're a mutual savings bank, because a lot of people don't know that, and they don't know what that means. So that always tells me they've done their homework, they've done their research. I think just wait for that opportunity, or if they say, do you have any questions? It might not be in a question format, but just put it out there and show them, tell them what you know about the company, and that will show that you're interested in it.
And everybody likes a compliment. So
Yeah.
Find something like an article that talked about something good they did, or say, oh, I love when people come in at Savings Bank Walpole and say, I love that you guys are so involved in the community, because that's important to us. We talk about being local and doing things. And I like when people do that, because everybody likes a little pat on the back. But I think, as Tamara said, build it into questions also, but make them legit. Like, I see you did this. How did you approach that? And again, if they're positives, people like to talk about accomplishments. I think that that's good. And I would say that I could always tell if somebody's prepared or not. It just, the answers, by being prepared, the way you will answer questions, will be in something that's relevant to them. And I think being able to drop in something, that you've learned about them, or just even in it saying, it's funny you asked that. I have a question about it. I was reading about your company and I was wondering how you actually did that, or how do you choose who do you donate to, or how do you do this? So I think it's easy to show that knowledge. And it becomes an interesting conversation then, truthfully, much better than just Q&A.
Good
Thank you,
question.
Mark and Tamara. We are just at time, but there is one other question here that if you could touch on in just a quick 60-second answer. Someone was asking, what are the do's and don'ts for explaining any gaps in your resumes?
I think don't lie, do be honest.
Exactly. That was my first thing, was be honest at what the gap was.
And I think, it's possible. I mean, I'll make it up. I mean, somebody may have been out of the workforce because they're dealing with a health issue, any of those. And sometimes that's hard because it's personal, information. But I think that, I would say I was dealing with a personal issue that, took priority. If somebody tells me that they took a break, to improve themselves, or, they dropped out of the workforce to do something, or care for an elderly parent or anything, to me, those are pluses, not minuses. So I think that, telling a lie is, those are the kind of things that they'll come back. But I would say don't, unless you're very comfortable with it and the other person, I wouldn't be overly personal, like, in it, if you were going through like a drug rehab or something, that's really none of their business. Right. I think that, but saying I was dealing with a personal issue and I decided to take that time to improve myself, and get myself, on track and I'm strong for that now. Again, I may be different than others, but I don't take that as a negative. I take that as a good explanation and good for you.
I agree.
So here's our contact information. Honestly, I mean, we're here to help the community. So if you want to know why you interviewed 3 times someplace and they love you, but not enough to hire you. And, be happy to, if you get in touch with me or Tamara, we'd be happy to talk to you, or how to get started on a resume, or if you're looking for a resume reviewer, Tamara would be a great person.
Yeah, and I'm right here in Walpole. My email address is NH Mutual, but I'm located at Savings Bank of Walpole up in Walpole. So I'm close by.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tamara and Mark. Attendees, you guys can skip over to the Vendors Go Live.
Thanks, everybody.